Well, g'day everybody. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. 5 o'clock in the morning in Australia, slightly in the future. It's a fantastic Valentine's Day here. It started already Wednesday morning. Thank you so much for the honour and privilege, Caleb and Pete, for organising the San Francisco Woodard Meetup group. And it's my absolute pleasure to be on the call with you guys today. What we're going to go through is accounting for lifestyle, and beyond. I know that sounds a little bit like a sort of a self-indulgent sort of topic, but essentially what I want to share with you during this session today is actually some of the reasons, some of the aspects, some of the things that have worked and haven't worked over the last 20 years of being involved in the accounting technology industry, one that we're all involved in, and how it actually has just made an incredible difference to not only my life, my family's, but also many other people I see around the world are choosing this industry. And you might have been in it for some time or just entered it, but we're choosing this industry as a lifestyle by design profession or industry. And if done well, it certainly can achieve those sorts of things for you. I just want to touch on something though. I speak around the world and a lot of people come up and ask me after the session that I present is, what are you actually selling, Clayton? And, I really don't have anything to sell. And I'm certainly not selling you guys on anything here during this session today. I'm really just sharing knowledge. I'm sharing experience. And that's one thing I've discovered over the years is you actually, once you achieve some things, what is fulfilling is actually giving back. And really this session is all about sharing some insights, some thoughts, some ideas, and some mistakes along the way that hopefully can help you, regain that spark and that energy about why you're in this business in the first place and actually what it is that you can achieve out of it. There's probably three things that I actually want to leave you with today. And hopefully if I can achieve any one of these, then this session certainly is a success from my point of view. One is I want to help you regain and build some confidence in the future and in the direction in which you're going in the accounting technology industry and profession, as I'd like to view it as. But I also want to help you gain some clarity, gain some structure and perspective around, well, what are the next steps? What things can I actually be doing in my business to achieve some sort of lifestyle and some sort of freedom and choices in actually how I operate my business? But also some connection. And maybe this is connection with yourself and why you're actually in this business in the first place. Why are you involved in this industry? And sometimes, when we're around for some time, we can lose sight of this. And so hopefully I can help you actually regain some clarity and connection and build that confidence. We've probably all heard this phrase, and I know when I first heard it, it really struck me. Simon Sinek talks about it. People don't follow what you do. They buy actually why you do it. Now, I know that's relevant and I know that's actually important when we're in business. What are we actually, what are we doing for people? But when we talk about our why, it's not just the how to. We need to know our know why, not just our know how. And it's usually not centered around, well, okay, I can help the client achieve this. This is the thing that actually can enable me to, have a better life. And often our why is incredibly selfish. And I don't think we need to apologize for this, but we're certainly not shouting it from the rooftops either. It's something internal. It's something within you that resonates with you as to why you're actually getting out of bed each day and what sort of difference it is that you're trying to make. And when we're communicating with clients, we need to be thinking in terms of them. But the energy comes from us knowing why it is that we're doing what we're doing. So what is our why? Why is it that we're actually in this industry in the first place? There's a whole myriad of things that we can be doing. When you look at clients and we look at their businesses, often I'm sure when we have dark moments actually in our industry, we start to think, wow, they're doing really well. Maybe I could do what they're doing. Because we get exposed to so many different ideas, opportunities, and industries at different phases and different crests of waves, if you like, that actually occur throughout time. But what is your why? And this is something personal. I can't answer this for you. All I'm saying is that we need to discover it. we need to spend some time actually digging in deep to find out, well, why is it that we're doing what we're doing? You know, and I knew this when I actually got in this business in the first place. I knew why I was actually looking at this industry as hopefully the vehicle that was going to enable some choices and freedom in life. And this was 20 plus years ago. You know, first became a ProAdvisor, actually, as it was wasn't known as that in Australia back 20 years ago, but essentially that was what it was, recommending, installing, training and supporting clients in multiple software solutions, but QuickBooks was our preferred software solution for our small to medium-sized clients. And ultimately, for me, personally, this is my why. You know, they're a bit bigger these days. They're all grown up or growing up. But 20 years ago, you know, starting a family, the desire and passion to actually create a life. And I wasn't achieving that in what I was doing. And I was incredibly frustrated. And when I saw accounting technology, I just hoped and dreamt that this could be the thing that actually could enable me to live the life of my dreams. And whilst, yes, that, you know, a lot of things have actually materialized since then, we do have our ups and downs in our industry and in our business. That's just life, isn't it? But essentially, this was why I wanted to find a vehicle that was going to enable me to actually live in a way in which I dreamt. So this was my burning passion and desire. And as to how I was going to do that, you know, I was going to work that out. And we'll talk a lot more throughout the session on the actual how-to piece. But a little bit of backstory. You know, I grew up on a farm and, you know, I went and studied accounting at university because there was no way I actually wanted to stay on that sheep farm. And anyone that knows that's grown up around sheep or cattle, you know, it can be a fantastic industry, but it wasn't for me. I wanted to actually have my own business one day. Even though farming is a business, I just couldn't see that that was going to provide the lifestyle and future that I wanted. So I actually went to university for the purpose of learning how to actually run a business. And I decided to do accounting. And, you know, not that I loved accounting, it was just that I thought that was the vehicle or that was the platform that I needed actually in place to enable me to understand how a business works. I knew absolutely nothing. You know, 17-year-old, thought I knew lots of things, but, you know, really knew nothing at all. And I left, just a side note there, university for me, you know, it was a 3-year course. It was the best 5 years of my life. I had so much fun. You know, I was a very average student. There were some subjects that I just loved so much that I went back a second time to actually look at them and to see if they were correct. You know, one subject I saw 3 times just to master it. So I was a very average student. But I was excited about where the future was going and thinking, well, okay, if I learn business, then I can have my own business one day. And I lucked in actually at the end of the second year to get a job at Pricewaterhouse, which was fantastic. It was a great place to start, fantastic foundations, great ethics, great integrity. This is in the late 1980s, last century. And I actually really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the, you know, what the business stood for and the values that they stood for. But I got frustrated a few years in, and incredibly frustrated. And I felt as though I got trapped in accounting, in doing tax returns. And it just wasn't for me. So I was looking to get out of the industry. And fortunately, in about 1995, I discovered accounting technology, or maybe it discovered me. So from an uninspired accountant, just every day was just pure drudgery. I just despised going to work. I loved the people, I loved the environment, but I just detested the actual work that I was doing. I just couldn't see it getting me closer to my goals and dreams. And so accounting technology came along. And at the time, you know, we had 4 children under the age of 5. We lived in a garage. You know, this isn't the typical story perhaps, but some of you have gone through exactly this. But I was frustrated. And thankfully I could see that maybe accounting technology was the thing that was going to give me my freedom. I could definitely see that every small business needed this. We were caught up in the manual process of everything. And I thought it was going to be over in about 18 months, that every small business in the world, in my world, in a small country town by that time I'd moved to, was going to have accounting technology. And I wanted to be the one to set it up for them because I could see this wave that was occurring. So, but just let's go back one step as to where we are now. And for some of you, you've actually, you may well have been a ProAdvisor for more than 20 years. That the program has just ticked over its 20th anniversary, which is tremendous. And for some, you've just arrived. But for many, perhaps, and what I sense and see around the world when I'm talking at events and conferences and on webinars like this, is that I hear from people that are incredibly frustrated or they're disillusioned as to where their future is going. It's not turning out how they thought it was going to. And so we've got these unmet expectations, and that can be part of the challenge, having these expectations. But we're going through a lot of change. Everything, everywhere is going through a lot of change. Our clients are going through change. We're not the only ones. We don't have a stranglehold on change. And probably the longer that things stayed the same, the harder it is for it to move on and change when that change appears. And so for many of us, we actually need to reinvent ourselves or recalibrate, if you like, is probably the way I view it, is recalibrating for future relevance and finding that energy in doing that. So how do we actually do this? And I love what Jack Welch talks about here, and he talks about how do we rediscover our purpose. And whilst passion is important, it's not the only thing. If we're just passionate about something, those people, they're incredibly passionate about something, but they can be incredibly frustrating to be around. All they want to talk about is what they're passionate about. Passion is important, but it's not the only thing. Jack Welch talks about where these three circles intersect is where we find our purpose. What are you passionate about? What skills do we currently have and are going to continue to grow and develop? And actually, what's wanted in the marketplace? And if I look back 20 years ago on the emergence of accounting technology for small business, I was passionate about getting out of accounting or getting out of tax, but I was also passionate about helping small business. I loved the business of business. I really was intrigued. I was curious about how business actually worked. And I had some skills, had some accounting background that could be, a plus or a minus, but it was definitely some sort of skill set that I wanted to leverage off. I didn't want to give it up. It was something that I'd put effort and time into. How could I perhaps switch directions or just change course slightly? But you can be incredibly skillful on something and passionate about it. But if the market doesn't want it at that moment in time or in the near future, then it can be incredibly frustrating. And perhaps in some instances, we're going through this phase right now for many of us that have grown up in the desktop world, shifting to the cloud. The market doesn't perhaps want what we used to offer to them. And that's okay. We can recalibrate here, reskill up, retool, if you like. So what do clients want? And in the middle there is our purpose. When those three circles intersect, that's when you find your purpose that's fulfilling. The road is already being built. There's an incredible opportunity in the accounting technology space all around the world. And you can take it in whichever direction you want to take it. There's a myriad of apps, hundreds of them. You don't need to know them all. Maybe you need to know 4 or 5. And discern what it is that you're going to deliver and what the market needs and wants. And what do you enjoy? This road is being built anyway, whether we decide to drive on it or not. This opportunity is unstoppable. The path has been set. What are we going to do about it? And I often think about this is, what's our vehicle? So what's our business model that we're actually utilising to enable us to drive down this path, to drive down this road in some sort of style? You are ultimately the driver, though. It is entirely up to you. It's up to us as to which direction we set and what model we choose to get there. And the vehicle actually is enabled for us. And for many of us, it's actually the accounting technology space still. Nothing's changed there, except that some of the tools and solutions have evolved. And will continue to do that. So when I was looking to build a business starting nearly 20 years ago, I knew exactly what you know. What I knew is just like what you know. It's not how much you make. It's how you make it that can make the big difference if you're looking for quality of life. And we know plenty of people that make enormous incomes, but are unhappy. You know, they're not fulfilled in what they're doing. So you don't have to have the massive incomes and all the stuff, but it's the way we make our income that actually can make a huge difference ultimately. But this isn't just about us. You know, this isn't just about us chasing a lifestyle dream that we have. It's more than that. It's how do we do this? You know, just by focusing on what you want in itself isn't going to get you there. But if you help others along the way, and I love this Zig Ziglar quote, you know, he's a gentleman, no longer with us, unfortunately, but I've admired and respected what he has to say over the years. And we can have everything in life we want if we'll just help enough other people get what they want. So what do we want? And what does someone else want? And how can we help them get it? It's incredibly important when we're working with clients to know, well, what is it that they're after? Not just telling them what it is that we know, it's actually discovering what it is that they want. And in building a business, you know, it's about creating some leverage. I see incredible bookkeepers, great software consultants, passionate accountants that burn themselves out because they haven't learnt the art of leverage. And hey, I've got my hand up here as well. I've done this. You know, I've tried to do it all at different times. But certainly in creating our business, you know, we can gain leverage by building a team. That's not just employees. It could be subcontractors. It could be software vendors. Implementing technology in our businesses, in our clients' businesses, creates leverage for us and for them. And looking at the processes, the way we do things around here is absolutely vital. What many of us do, though, is we fall into the small busyness trap. And what I'm sort of describing here is typically when we get our first client, you can remember the day when you've got your first client. We all remember our first client. Someone's going to pay us for what we're offering to the world. Oh my goodness, what if there's more people out there like that? I could have a business. Well, in many cases, we tend to just focus on that client. Us as the business owner, we're trying to build a business, but the trap is that we go straight to the client and we want to do everything for them. Ourselves, yourself, individually. You won't gain leverage by doing everything for every client yourself. And I understood this. I needed to build a team. And as a business owner, if I build the team then looks after the clients. And obviously we work out ways to bring clients into this team. The clients then look after the business. And then the business looks after you as the owner of that business. This is how you gain leverage, and we move away from the small busyness trap. But I see bookkeepers and accountants and software consultants become absolutely incredible at what they do, which is tremendous. You do want to be so good that they can't ignore you. But then we get caught up in just delivering our personal services, our personal exertion to every single client. And there's a limit. There's a limit on plausibly how much we can actually charge for that service, even if we're using value or fixed-based pricing. But there's also a limit in time. You end up getting full. And what happens is great passionate bookkeepers, for example, have that many clients that they can't service any more clients. And the service delivery drops, which actually eats away at you because you're a quality-based person and you want to actually create quality and value for your clients, but that next client could break you. Your model isn't right. You can't put more clients and more business into that model. It will break on you. So we need to look at building team. And getting away from the busted busyness pricing model. I know many of us are doing this, moving away from just that hours for dollars trading, moving to your value pricing and fixed-based pricing. So essentially, I thought about this, and there was 3 types of businesses that we can actually build. You can build a business to sell. And nothing's wrong with that. You know, you gain, realize an asset by building it and then moving it on. That gives you a large, hopefully large, cash injection to then work out, well, what am I going to do with that? Some businesses, though, I see built to regret or built to despise. The excitement of actually creating your own business in the first place disappears over time as the drudgery and the broken business model that isn't actually addressed or fixed creates a burden for the business owner. The very thought of getting another client, we talked about that a minute ago, starts to give you pains of anxiety that, oh my gosh, how am I going to look after this next client? And then there's the business that's built to keep. You then perhaps have an income stream and it's some sort of lifestyle that's created out of this business for the business owner. So you decide whether you keep it or whether you move it on. You're allowed to keep a business. You don't actually have to sell it if it's providing an income stream in a way that's, you know, makes sense for you and actually fits in with your lifestyle choices. And that's what I was after, doing it. And I was curious as to how we actually do that. So I needed to drill into the types of income that we were generating in our business. And essentially there's sort of these three types of income. They're probably more, but the three that I focused on was this. I was looking at the active income. Active income can be non-recurring or recurring. We'll drill into this a lot more in a couple of minutes. But what I was totally curious about was how could I generate passive income that was recurring? So it didn't revolve around my efforts constantly, you know, and we'll take a look at that as to what that actually could look like in the area of a ProAdvisor. So let's have a look at the active or non-recurring income. And this is the typical sort of project type work. You know, we do and charge the fix-ups, we're responsive to the client's requests, they're usually generating the engagement or initiating it. The consulting work, it might be a setup or a training or support. These are labor intensive and active. They require someone's activity to actually generate this income. They're usually billed by the hour or billed by the project as well. And so when one's finished, you've got to then go and find the next one. And it can sort of be this feast or famine sort of approach. You can pick up a fantastic project, but when it's over, you've got to go and find the next one. And Peter Drucker talks about it. You know, what's the purpose of a business? And essentially it's to find and keep a customer. Find and keep. Not find and have to find. It's find and keep. How do I keep them? What's the recurring piece that I could bring in to that engagement? Then we've got the active recurring income. And you think about this in terms, and I'm seeing fantastic progression with bookkeepers and consultants and accountants moving in this direction, where we're setting up recurring engagements, bookkeeping contracts, business process outsourcing, support contracts, service level agreements with your clients. You've engaged the client. You've actually built the trust and connection with them. What ongoing can I do with them that actually adds value to their business, but also enables our business to set up some recurring income? And this is active at this stage. Now, there's nothing wrong with this, but we need people to actually deliver these services. You could look at running events. We ran over 100 events over 10 years to build the business. And these were roadshows. We went out and partnered with accounting firms, with software companies to actually deliver education and training to small businesses, empower small business. These are labor intensive still. They're active, but they also have some recurring nature to it. You know, based on your value or your fixed sort of pricing models, you can build up some asset value in your business by having recurring business. It makes it attractive when someone's looking to purchase that business, so long as there's a margin in there that actually makes sense for their asset outlay. And then there's this third piece, which is very interesting, the passive recurring piece. And this the software industry is built on this, particularly now with the cloud. But even back in the desktop era, you know, there was this recurring model that actually was in place. How could you productize your services? Take what it is that you do and turn them into a product. that could be saleable online. You know, people can subscribe to your business. Think of your bookkeeping and consulting knowledge. How could you actually impart that to others with a business model that enables you to productize that service? There's software margins. Obviously, if software is sold, there's a margin in there. And with software as a service on a monthly basis, you know, that's a monthly recurring piece. Trailing commissions. You know, you might have different views around this, and you might have different requirements depending on legislative requirements about the services that you're offering. But that can be a huge piece. You know, you help a software vendor set up 100, or 10 to start with, but 100, 1,000, 5,000, beyond small businesses on their software solution. And I'm only sharing what it is that we've done over the last 20 years. With a team no more than 7, we've set up thousands of software solutions for small business that's created a trailing ongoing commission for software vendors, ongoing business, and we share in that. You know, we're part of the marketing department. So long as we're actually putting in appropriate solutions on a needs basis for that client that are appropriately reviewed, that's fine. What sort of resource library could you create? Create a subscription-based model. We certainly did this with our manuals, our hints and tips, our webinars, our seminars. We built it once and we could sell it many. So these are not as labor intensive. They're more passive. You build a recurring income stream in here. You share in the revenue. It's revenue sharing here with software vendors or other partners. I just wanted to share with you this screen here, this page. It's actually probably, I think the title is actually missing off here, but let me move this around a bit. So what this is our business over the last 17 years. And what I'm tracking here is down the bottom here, the green line is actually our recurring passive income. And we started out 17 years ago looking at this in the business. This is when we independently owned the business. We weren't part of an accounting group anymore. And so we wanted to build up the green line. We wanted to build up the recurring passive income that would be generated without us actually having to actively generate the work over and over again. And at the top line here was our active income. You think of things like consulting revenue. And this is a percentage. These are all percentages. So these are a percentage mix. This is the mix of how our recurring, and the purple line is the total recurring income. It's a percentage of our total income. You know, started off under 30% and now it's over 75% of the business. So we know what's coming in each month. And the blue line, as I said, is our active consulting, do and charge type work as a percentage of the overall business income, which has significantly dropped. The total revenue hasn't necessarily dropped, but the percentage of our income mix has dropped. And then we've got the recurring active income here. And they're sort of like our contracted type work and our package services, if you like. And you'll notice there's this crossover point here. And if I drill down in here, 2010, and that's significant. I only really mapped these in the last couple of days because I was thinking about changing the way I looked at the business. What percentage of our income is actually broken down into recurring and active? And that's recurring active and recurring passive together, and just active income that's non-recurring. And you can see there's this crossover point in 2010. And that's where our recurring active and passive income outweighed as a percentage of the business, our non-recurring and our active income. And that's significant. You know, 2010 was when I took my first overseas trip. I'd never been overseas before. Took the whole family to America. And 2011 then was the first time that we ever went to an accounting software technology conference in the US, the SLEADER conference in Vegas. And many of you, I've met there. And then obviously beyond, to QuickBooks Connect and all those fabulous events that you guys have access to. So 26 trips later of travel, why did I get in business in the first place? To have time with my family, to travel. I really wanted to travel. And this industry has enabled that to happen. But I had to put the 10 years in here. And you don't have to put the 10 years in. You could shortcut this. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. And it took me 10 years to get this up off the ground. But since then, 26 trips later of travel, many of them with the family, at least half. Some software conferences in there as well that I take a short, quick trip to the US for, and another one coming up in a couple of weeks. But this has enabled me, and there's another map of time here that I didn't log, or didn't actually graph out. I have tracked it, is how much active hours I'm spending on client work. And that has diminished in line with this actual blue line. So the effort that I'm putting in terms of active effort, there's still a lot of mental effort in terms of, designing and creating the business. But the active effort has diminished so that you can get more creative. When we're bogged down in doing the stuff every day, our creativity actually gets stifled as well. It's important for us to understand the difference between our actual rate and our effective rate. A lot of people focus or talk about how much are you charging? What's your hourly rate? I mean, they're actual rates. And if you multiply your actual rate by the activity, let's say you charge your 1,500 hours a year that the traditional accountant is charging out or recovering with clients. And if you're charging $100 an hour, that's effectively you're generating $150,000 a year if you're recovering at all. So that's your actual rate. Your number of hours that you're putting in to generate it divided into the total income that you're generating. So that brings it back to that $100. But what if you got to a point where you could be generating the same income in half the time? 750 hours to generate the $150,000 in income. Your effective rate has then doubled. It's gone up to effectively $200 an hour. And you're probably not billing by the hour anyway, because you're generating income in a way that's stackable. It increases, it's recurring. It's important to know the difference here. Are you working on increasing your effective rate, or you're just trying to get more for your actual rate? Change. My goodness, we're all going through it. Guess what? The world is changing. Everything is a living cell, if you like, or right down the atomic level is change. There's vibration, there's movement constantly. So the secret of change is not to focus all of our energy on fighting the old, but bring it to build the new. If you are at a point right now where you're perhaps a little disillusioned around where your future is, take a moment to acknowledge where you've come from, what you've built up over that time. You've got an incredible knowledge and a resource that you can now utilize as a platform to build the new. I love what Tony Robbins talks about, and this is going beyond just a lifestyle creation. Business can create lifestyle. Yes, we get that, and it will for you too. But once you get to that point, what I've discovered is that sometimes it can be unfulfilling. Now, how can that be? You've achieved the goals and dreams that you set out to achieve. And a lot of us are just so fixated on finances. I know I was for a long time. But it's bigger than that. It's about fulfillment. How can we get fulfillment in what it is that we're doing each day? And he talks about these 6 basic human needs. And when each of these are being satisfied to some extent in what it is that we're doing, then we start to discover sort of this joy and fulfillment in our work. And first need is we're looking for certainty. Think of it as control. I want control over my outcome here. And accountants and bookkeepers, we love this. We love the systems. We love the processes. But if that's all it was and we got that nailed and bedded down, we're lacking variety. We're looking for change. Believe it or not, we are. We are looking for this variety and uncertainty at times. But we're also looking for significance. How can the client see what we're doing as significant? Am I adding value? Am I doing something of value for someone? Moving through to connection, love. Am I connecting with the people that I'm actually working with? Or is this just a transaction? Or do I genuinely care and connect? But beyond those 4 basic needs, there's also then another 2. And it's growth and contribution. Am I growing? And this involves change. Am I growing? Am I learning? Am I continuing to learn? It's not just about saying, well, I've got that down pat now, I don't need to learn anymore. It's certainly not that. And also, am I contributing? Am I giving back? You know, am I actually helping someone else just because I want to help them? That's about learning, doing, and teaching, empowering others. And what an incredible industry to be involved in for all of us. You know, we're front-facing to small business. We're the connector. We're taking accounting technology as the sort of this lead-in to then connect with small business. And the world that opens up for us, you know, is incredible. But for many of us, we've gone through these various phases, and you'll be at one of these phases on this graph here. When we start out in business, we know nothing, and we're a beginner. I love this graph by Simon Wardley. It encapsulates a whole era that I've experienced over the last 20 years. And the more times I speak to people about this, somewhere you're going to be sitting on this chart. So if you're just starting out, you've just entered this industry, you know that you know nothing. You're a total beginner, and you've got a thirst for knowledge. You're curious about everything, which is tremendous. And if we look at the blue line here, this is how much I actually know, and you know that you know nothing. How much I realize there is to know is the green line, and there's a lot more to know. And how much I think I know, well, you know that you don't know anything, so you know that you don't think you know much. But what happens is over time, clients start to see us as the expert, and we start to believe that. And we move into this hazardous phase where you're the expert, and that is hazardous because how much you think that you know is being built up by other people's affirmations. You actually really don't know that much. It's progressing, and you're thinking that you're trying to achieve this point where it's about to hit how much I realize there is to know. But you do get to this moment where, is this all there is? You know, am I going to repeat this over and over again? I know how to do a bank rec. I know how to import the bank transactions. I know how to produce the reports. I could do it in my sleep, but it's not fulfilling. It gets to a point where it's like, wow, is this all there is? And this is where people start to question, start to look at alternatives. Instead of saying, well, you know what? Why don't I just recalibrate here and realize there is just so much more to know? I am learning, but how much I think I know, I need to recalibrate this down to really closer to how much I actually do know. And then we start to move into this third phase. It's the I know nothing phase again, the expert phase. And I think that's where many of us are at, you know, having known desktop accounting software and now moving into cloud technologies, not just that switch of the core accounting engine, but the applications, the business processes, walking clients through this whole new era is incredibly powerful. So automation is sort of this lead in, you know, but what's beyond that? If we start with automation of process, then that's great. And we're doing that. You look at things like bank feeds or expense capture management or time tracking that's actually captured from an app or a mobile app. But beyond automation, and I love what you know, Daniel and Richard Susskind talk about in their book, The Future of Professions. It's only essential reading for anyone that wants to hang out in the accounting technology space in the next 2 to 5 years or beyond. If you want to stay in this industry, this is prerequisite reading. It'll scare you, it'll shock you, but it'll also inspire you. And what they talk about in this book is we started automation. Technology brings automation to the table, which it should. But it goes beyond that. We move to this sort of pinnacle point of demystification, taking what has been mystical for small businesses and demystifying it. Accounting has been mystical. Accounting, the way, you know, for many clients, it's like, I've just got to get it done so I stay out of jail. I got to get the taxes done each year. That's the only value they see in it. My accountant doesn't explain it to me. I hear that all the time. How can you be an educator, a demystifier of what is mystical in the client's minds? That's where the value is. So we need to move from sort of a redundancy of tasks. The things that we're doing are going to become redundant, right? That's fine. Think of the word perfect consultant. Remember those 20 years ago? They used to come in and train people in accounting firms. I was in the room. Where are they now? They're not doing that anymore. That task is not required. You know, data entry is going to be diminished. That requirement of data entry, and from a manual intervention point of view, or someone doing that work, is going to be diminished, if not eliminated. So if you're currently doing that, make yourself redundant. Look at other ways. Look at actually future opportunities. You know, retirement versus redundancy, it's actually the same outcome. You're no longer doing a task that you used to perform. But if it's a redundancy, it's someone else deciding, isn't it? Technology deciding, the client deciding. But if you're proactive, you can participate in your own retirement of that task. And that brings back control. You decide. It brings certainty in the future. I love this Billy Connolly quote. You know, people aren't looking for someone with all the answers. They're looking for someone who understands the question. What is the question that your client needs answering? How can you help them answer it? You might be the connector that actually brings people to them. I'll just quickly touch on the Johari window. And anyone that's seen me speak or heard me speak over the last 2 or 3, maybe 5 years, knows that this is a model, the methodology that we've adopted in our business to ensure that we're creating deep client empathy, creating connection with your clients. Do some more research around this, but I'll quickly run through. If you're looking down on a house and it's got 4 rooms in it, and we've taken the roof off the house, and we're looking at each one of these rooms, and through each external wall there's a window, and each internal wall there's also a window. So this is us up the top here. We can look into this open or free area. The client can look into this open or free area as well through the window on the outside of the wall here. So this open or free zone in room 1, we know what's going on and the client knows what's going on. Things like, you know, we know their industry they're involved in. We know the number of employees or team members they've got. You know, basic stuff. We know their current financial position. Hopefully the client knows that as well. But then we can move into this hidden area for the client. Room 3 is hidden to the client. They can't look into room 1 and around corners into room 3. But this is what we know about the client's business that they don't know. They're about to have a cash flow crisis. Wow, the client says, well, how do you know this? It's some sort of mystical reading of the tea leaves? No, the actual balance sheet and the movements and the cash flow forecast shows us this. There are leading indicators. Educate the client around that. Open up that hidden area. Similarly, room 2 is a blind area for us. We can't look into room 1 and around corners into room 2. The client knows what's going on in here, but we don't. And this is where we can, through asking questions, we can solicit feedback. So we start to expand what we know about the client's business, where they're heading, what are their goals and dreams, what are their plans, what's their industry doing. And as you can see this dotted line here, room 1, the open and free area starts to expand into room 2 for us and room 3 for the client. So room 1 suddenly becomes 2/3 of the size of the whole house. And we start to move into this shared discovery zone, opening up what was unknown, previously unknown to us and the client, but we've discovered it together. That's empowering. That's where we create deep client empathy, that you're demonstrating that you actually care. You know, that Teddy Roosevelt quote, you know, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And this is the caring zone. So there are ways to actually get into that space through asking questions, genuinely wanting to find out more about the client, that with relevancy, not just because you saw that the Johari window said that you had to do that. Some of this is actually changing our skill set, upskilling, evolving. It's just change. There's a fantastic book called Be So Good They Can't Ignore You, a guy called Cal Newport. It's a tremendous read. That actual quote is a Steve Martin quote. You know, when he was asked, how did you become, you know, what's the key to your success? Well, just be so good they can't ignore you. Do the work. And for many of you, this is exactly what you're currently doing. But he also talks about in this book a notion called the adjacent possible. And it's essentially this sort of shadowy future hovering on the edge of our present state of things in the way in which the future or the current can reinvent itself. And you think of accounting and accounting technology. and the application of technology into accounting firms so that we can move through to clients' businesses, or bookkeeping businesses that can enable and empower more clients using technology. This is what technology, I believe, is to accountants and bookkeepers. It's this adjacent possible. It's right there. It's the next thing that we can actually adopt and implement. And I know for you, many of you on the call today, this is exactly what you're doing. But how can we do it in a way that the model actually enables us to generate an income stream and build business in a way that enables us to live well? By helping others. You're not going to do it without that. Ultimately, you're a business partner. You're bringing solutions to your small business clients, but you're partnering with them. It's a partner mindset. It mightn't be in a formal sense, but it is a mindset. How quick can this happen? You know, I love this quote, Amaras Law, and Bill Gates often is credited as owning this quote, but it's actually a researcher called Roy Amara many years ago talked about, we tend to overestimate the effect of technology in the short run and underestimate the effect in the long run. You know, we overestimate what's going to happen in 6 months, but underestimate what we can achieve in 2 to 5 years. Think about that. It's about setting a plan for you and your future and getting that mindset right. You know, new mindset equals new results. It's the way we think. It really is. I just want to finish on a couple of points here. And there's another great book called The Go-Giver. Bob Burg and John David Mann wrote it many years ago. And they talk in this book about sort of 5 key principles of being the go-giver and building your business, and has structuring it around these 5 key principles. And there's 5 laws essentially. And the first law is the law of value. And we think about, you know, your true worth actually is determined by how much more you give in value than you actually receive in payment. Tim O'Reilly talks about this as well, you know, sort of release more value than you capture. It's not about just getting, it's actually about giving. That next law was the law of compensation. You know, and I found each of these to be incredibly true over the 20 years of building our business. And when I read this book, it's like, aha, this actually articulates what actually happens. But your income is determined by how many people you can serve and how well you serve them. If you're feeling anxious at the moment about bringing on another client, it's because the model isn't structured in a way that can enable this. But deep down, I believe that internally, you know that what I'm doing is a great service, and there's some frustration as to, well, how can I help more people have access to this from a genuine, authentic standpoint? Influence. You know, your influence. A lot of people want influence. You know, they want to be the influencer. You know, influence is just really about leadership. It's determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. How can I help the client? How can I genuinely help them? And make sure you've got a model that actually does enable you to leverage and benefit from that. But your focus is on abundantly helping other people achieve their interests and goals. Be you, though. I love the word authenticity. Be genuine. Be you. You don't have to be anyone else other than you. The most valuable gift you have to offer is you. People don't buy your services or solutions, you know, they buy you. That is what they're buying. They're buying what you stand for. Doesn't mean you have to be the one delivering the whole service, but they do buy you. But be receptive. The law of receptivity is being open to receiving what comes your way by adopting those first 4 laws and principles. Just to wrap up, it does take action. We do need to take some action. You know, people talk about taking massive action, just some action. Just start. What is the one thing that you could do? Go back to your why. If you're not passionate and excited about why it is that you're doing what you do today, take some time to reflect on that. Take some time to actually articulate, you know, what is it that actually excites me and energizes me? And then work out how you can help others in doing that. Progress, hey, it's usually not linear. This is not just an A to B set point. You know, you're on the Uber app and I want to go from here to there. Who knows? There's lots of back streets. There's lots of detours along the way. Life is like this, you know, but there's progression. There's always progression. There's always change. But there's also those messy moments when we seem to be going nowhere as well. But what we need to do is look back, take stock as to where we've come from over time. If we can't clearly see this, and often we can't, talk to others, friends and family. They'll point out to you exactly how far you've come and help you realize it. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to share with you today. I'm actually going to flick over to Pete here. If Zoom all does what it's supposed to do here, I'll find Pete in the list here somewhere, and I'm going to add him. I'm going to make him the host, actually. And so, Pete, I'm hoping that you can be the host, and therefore you could unmute yourself and just wrap up the session here today. I think we've got a few prize draws to give away. There's a few books that... hang on, let me just unmute Pete. Let's hope technology's doing what it's supposed to do here. And Pete, can you unmute yourself? There he is.
Good. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, Pete. Certainly can.
Oh, great. Well, Clayton, thank you so much for a most informative and motivating presentation. So we got a lot out of it, and really appreciate it. After I get through with just a couple of comments, if you have more time, maybe you can enter some questions.
Absolutely. Very happy to do that. It's 6 o'clock in the morning here. I've got hours.
I did want to thank you for getting up early on Valentine's Day, and unlike you, we still have time to run out and get flowers and cards, so it's not here yet for us.
Well, I think I still have time too, because last report, my bride was still in bed, so...
Well, we appreciate you getting up early. I know that you offered 3 books in the announcement. Everybody is on.
Talking in the background.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks to everybody for appreciate it. I know in the announcement, Clayton had offered 3 books, and what I've done is I asked my bride to, I numbered all of the attendees, and then I asked 3 numbers, and here's the numbers that I drew, and you will be getting an email from me where you can select your book and know. So the numbers that my wife drew were number 4.
You work for yourself and work for somebody else? Or?
Number 9 for Hal Rosen. Now, Hal Rosen is our Meetup group leader in Salt Lake City, and I know that Hal has 10 or 12 people all watching. So the number of it.
Yes.
So Hal, you know,
Okay, thanks.
pass it on to somebody in your and finally, number 21 was Fran Reed.
As well, but we also taught her to be a bookkeeper, so she does both.
Oh, that'd be great. Thanks, Al. Thanks, Pete.
Yeah, so we
There's
have
a lot of.
well, she's been the same
Maybe
mom for 13 years, and she's
Who's talking
you-
in the background?
I know. Clayton?
Yeah, I can hear that talking in the background. I just, it looks like
Wes?
someone's on a landline, has dialed in on a landline, not actually on the headsets or on via the web.
Everybody was unmuted, and I think somebody didn't notice.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think
Can you mute everybody?
Yeah, just check that everyone's muted there, please. You can mute yourself. I've muted everyone that I can have access to here.
Okay, I just muted myself.
The best of both worlds, where they're at home, take care of kids, but then also
Whoever's presenting should be able to mute all in one click.
maybe getting some balance in their life with something like this. So, and that's who we. That's what we
I think you've just unmuted everyone, Pete.
Are in that position there.
Clayton, can you hear me?
Hopefully everyone can hear me now. I had to just reclaim the host off Pete there. So Pete, are you still on the line? You've unmuted?
Yes, I am. I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm still on the line.
Yeah, I can certainly hear you now. Yep. So there's a few questions that have come in.
If you have a few minutes and there are questions, thank you. I thank you again for, and I know Caleb does as well, for a very motivating presentation. I'm sure we have a lot of takeaways from it, and we will start to apply them immediately. So if you have time for some questions, and if anybody has any questions, please take it back.
Yeah, and you should be able to raise your hand or unmute yourself. Or even type in the chat box.
Well, I don't see any hands raised, so maybe we'll call it a day and let you get back to enjoying Valentine's Day. Thank you so much, Clayton. It's been inspiring.
That's my absolute pleasure. And yeah, thanks so much and have a fantastic day. You're in for a great future. At least I know half a day in advance. The next half a day is going to be great. So yeah, just enjoy it, guys. It's an absolute pleasure to share something and hopefully it's helped. And feel free to reach out to me, you know, on Twitter or, you know, Facebook or LinkedIn. And I'd just love to keep in touch.
Oh, before you go, I think Sarah Laidlaw raised her hand.
Oh my good. Do we allow her to speak? Gee, Sarah. Where is she?
I see Sarah Laidlaw. You probably need to unmute her.
Yeah, I should. She should be able to. I've just changed her to unmute. Sarah.
Yay!
Hey.
You know how frustrating it is for me not to be able to talk?
You have the stage.
That is so funny. No,
It's
I
great
just
to hear your
wanted
voice.
to No, apparently, when we get muted like that, I guess we can't unmute ourselves. But no, I wanted to ask you if you had recorded this. Mark couldn't join me today, and I want to show him the session.
Yes. You know what? We have recorded it. I'll share the link actually back to Pete so everyone can access that as well.
Awesome.
So we just got to publish it, and that'll be available. So yeah, it's so great to hear your voice.
Yes, and I wanted to tell you happy Valentine's Day, and to you and Jacinta. So.
Oh, and also to you and Mark.
So thank you.
My absolute pleasure. Looking forward to seeing you guys soon.
Okay, take care.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, all.
I'll pass on the link to the video.
No worries at all. See you, Pete.
Okay. Bye-bye.